The atmosphere in Washington, D.C. was electric, tense, and oddly comedic as the first official White House press briefing of the new administration began. The reporters sat in neat rows, adjusting their recorders, cameras, and pens, expecting the usual measured tone from a government spokesperson. What they got instead was pure chaos. Suddenly, the door flew open, and in rolled Sean Spicer, or rather, Melissa McCarthy's unforgettable version of him, pushing a motorized podium straight through the press room with the force of a storm. Her eyes blazed with frustration, and her jaw was set like a soldier entering battle. "Sit down. Sit down. You're gonna listen, and I'm gonna talk," she barked, pointing an angry finger at the startled press corps. Every journalist in the room froze. The audience watching on television could feel the tension, but also the absurd humor building beneath it. McCarthy's Spicer slammed a thick folder onto the podium, sending papers flying everywhere. First and foremost, she shouted, the inauguration crowd was the biggest ever. Period. Gasps and murmurs rippled through the room. One reporter timidly raised a hand. But, the aerial photos. Before he could finish, Spicer's eyes narrowed. No, no, no. Don't start with your photos and your so-called facts. You people are liars. She pulled out a water gun and sprayed the front row. That's a warning shot. The audience erupted in laughter. Melissa McCarthy had completely transformed herself, from her stance to her gritted teeth and clipped, furious delivery. Every exaggerated gesture mirrored the real-world absurdity of political spin. The sketch cleverly captured a moment when facts and fiction were colliding in American media. Spicer continued, flipping through notes that made no sense. The inauguration crowd was the largest, bigger than Obama's, bigger than Beyoncé's concerts, bigger than the moon landing. Fact, she yelled. A reporter dared to question her math. Alternative facts. Spicer snapped, slamming her hands down on the podium. You guys need to get your facts straight, our facts. Then came the props, a ridiculous visual aid of printed photos, arrows, and random scribbles supposedly proving her point. She held them up proudly, shouting, "See. Look at this. That's science." The room fell silent as she glared at the press, daring anyone to challenge her again. Throughout the sketch, McCarthy's energy never dropped for a second. She charged the room like a hurricane, shouting, rolling her podium closer to the reporters, and occasionally stopping to chew gum furiously. The reporters sat speechless, while viewers at home laughed until tears rolled down their cheeks. The following week's briefing was even more outrageous. The press room was packed tighter than ever. Reporters, photographers, and even a few curious staffers had gathered, whispering about what Spicer might do next. Then came that familiar sound, the rumble of wheels. The door burst open again, and Melissa McCarthy's Sean Spicer rolled in on her motorized podium like a general riding into war. "You thought I was gone. Wrong," she yelled, banging her fist on the podium. The room instantly went silent. This time, Spicer came prepared with what she proudly called visual evidence. From behind the podium, she dramatically pulled out a box filled with ridiculous props, stuffed animals, toy cars, Barbie dolls, and Play-Doh charts. These, she declared, holding up a doll in one hand and a toy truck in the other, represent America's hardworking citizens. And these charts, she waved a messy Play-Doh sculpture, prove everything I said last week was 100% true. Period. The reporters stared in disbelief. One brave journalist from CNN asked, "Are you seriously using children's toys as data?" Spicer's face twisted in outrage. "Don't you dare question my sources. These are top secret, verified, double confirmed by the Department of Alternative Facts." She leaned over the podium and glared at the room, chewing gum so loudly it echoed. Then, in one of the sketch's funniest moments, Spicer pulled out a laminated printout showing two identical crowd photos. "See, clearly the one on the right is bigger," she said proudly. "That's called perspective, people. Learn it." The press corps sat speechless as she shouted, "You don't have to like the truth, but you're gonna hear it from me." When another reporter mentioned that her tone seemed hostile, Spicer exploded. "Hostile? Oh, you haven't seen Hostile yet," she screamed, climbing off her podium and pushing it directly toward him. The reporter dove out of the way as the podium rolled across the stage, knocking over microphones. The audience erupted in laughter. McCarthy's physical comedy was unmatched. The sketch built to pure madness. Spicer grabbed a fake doll labeled "The Media" and dunked it into a bucket of soap, shouting, "We're cleaning up fake news." She then turned to the cameras and said, "You people are trying to destroy me, but I'm like a big gum ball of truth. You can chew me, but you can't swallow me." By the end, exhausted and covered in sweat, she took one last jab at the reporters. "You're all just jealous because I tell it like it is," she screamed. Then, dramatically, she grabbed the podium handles, yelled, "God bless America and my podium," and rode out of the room, leaving chaos behind. The sketch became an instant cultural phenomenon. Melissa McCarthy's explosive portrayal of Sean Spicer wasn't just hilarious, it was sharp political satire that perfectly captured America's strange new reality. Overnight, she became a comedic icon, and her wild, press conference went down in Saturday Night Live history as one of the boldest and funniest performances ever aired. As the sketch ended, Spicer took one deep breath and screamed, "I'm here to tell the truth, whether it's true or not." She stormed out of the press room, leaving a trail of confusion, laughter, and flying papers behind. The parody brilliantly reflected the tension of political press briefings, turning a moment of government communication into one of SNL's most iconic comedy skits ever.